Let me ask you something nobody ever asks. If your income stopped tomorrow morning, how long could you actually survive? Not scrape by, not borrow from family, not put things on a credit card and pray. Actually survive, comfortably, without panic, without desperation creeping into every single decision you make. For most people, the honest answer is terrifying. And here is the part that makes it worse. Most of those people think they are prepared. They saved the 3 months everyone talks about. They followed the advice. They ticked the box. They moved on. But here is the truth nobody in personal finance wants to say out loud. The 3-month emergency fund rule is outdated, dangerously incomplete. And for most people living real lives in today's economy, it is not protection at all. It is just a slower version of the same financial crisis they were trying to avoid. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why 3 months is not enough, what your real numbers should be based on your actual life, and how to build toward it without feeling like you are sacrificing everything fun about being alive right now. Stay with me. This one is going to change how you think about financial safety forever. Let me tell you about David. David is 34. He lives in a mid-sized city, rents a 2-bedroom apartment, drives a 5-year-old car, and works as a project manager at a mid-sized tech company. He earns a decent salary, not life-changing money, but comfortable. Enough to cover his bills, save a little, go out on weekends, and not feel constantly stressed about money. 2 years ago, David got serious about his finances. He read the articles, he watched the videos, he made a plan. And at the top of that plan was Step 1, build a 3-month emergency fund. It took him about 10 months of consistent saving, but he did it. $14,000 sitting quietly in a savings account, completely separate from his everyday spending. He remembers transferring the last amount that pushed him over the target and feeling something he had not felt about money in years. Safe. He felt genuinely, deeply, financially safe for the first time in his adult life. And then 11 months later, his company lost a major client, the kind of client that represented almost 30% of the company's revenue. Within 6 weeks, the executives announced a restructuring. David's entire division was dissolved on a Wednesday afternoon. He was handed a severance package covering exactly 3 weeks of pay and a box for his desk belongings. He was not panicking, though. He had the fund, $14,000, 3 months of breathing room. He was prepared. Except, he was not. Here is where it gets interesting. David started applying immediately. He updated his resume the same night he was let go. He reached out to his network. He applied to every relevant role he could find. He was doing everything right. But the market had shifted. Roles that used to close in 3 to 4 weeks were now taking 3 to 4 months minimum. His industry had slowed down. Companies were cautious about hiring. Interview processes had stretched to 6, 7, sometimes 8 rounds before offers were made. By week 6 of unemployment, his boiler broke down. $800 to fix it. Not optional in the middle of winter. By month 2, his car developed a transmission problem that the mechanic told him could not wait. $1,100. By month 2.5, his daughter needed orthodontic work that his now lapsed employer health insurance no longer covered. Another $1,500. 3 separate emergencies inside the emergency. By the end of month 3, the fund was completely gone. Not almost gone. Gone. And David still did not have a job offer. He started putting groceries on a credit card. He called his parents for the first time in 15 years to ask for money. He felt a shame so deep and specific that he described it to me as feeling like he had failed at the one thing he had actually tried to do right. David eventually found a new job, but it took 5.5 months total, and the last 2.5 months of that search permanently changed his financial life. The credit card debt took 18 months to clear. The borrowed money from his parents created a tension in that relationship that still lingers today. He did everything the right way. He followed every piece of advice he had ever been given about emergency funds, and it still left him exposed, desperate, and borrowing money at 34 years old. And here is what breaks my heart about David's story. He is not unusual. He is not unlucky. He is just honest, because the same thing is quietly waiting for millions of people right now who think 3 months means they are safe. Here is the mistake almost everyone makes. And I mean almost everyone. including people who are genuinely trying to be responsible with money. They treat the 3-month rule like a finish line instead of a starting point. The advice feels credible because it is everywhere. Financial websites, personal finance books, money podcasts, 3 months of expenses. Save it. Done. Move on to investing. Move on to building wealth. You have handled the emergency fund question. Now let's talk about the exciting stuff. But here is the problem with that advice. The 3-month rule was not based on rigorous modern data. It was a rough guideline that emerged from a completely different economic reality. One where most people stayed at the same company for decades, where layoffs came with significant notice periods and generous severance, where rehiring happened in weeks, not months, where healthcare costs were a fraction of what they are today, where rents were not consuming 40 to 50% of take-home pay in major cities. That economy does not exist anymore. The average job search duration in the United States right now is between 5 and 6 months. In the United Kingdom, it is similar. In Canada and Australia, the picture varies by industry, but the trend is the same everywhere. Hiring has slowed, competition has increased, decision-making at companies has become more cautious and more prolonged. And here is the part most people do not realize. Those averages include people who find jobs quickly pulling the number down. If you are in a specialized field, a senior role, a niche industry, or a market that is currently contracting, your personal job search timeline could easily be 9 months or longer. So the question is brutally simple. If the problem you are insuring yourself against takes longer to resolve than the insurance you have built, what exactly are you protected from? The answer is almost nothing. And it gets worse. Because the 3-month rule has another fatal flaw that nobody talks about. It assumes emergencies are isolated events. They almost never are. When your income stops, other things tend to go wrong at the same time. The stress of financial pressure accelerates health problems. The disruption to routine creates household friction. The anxiety of uncertainty makes you more vulnerable to additional bad decisions. And practically speaking, the world does not pause its expenses because you lost your job. The car still breaks, the boiler still fails, the dental emergency still happens. And now all of those things are landing on you during the exact window when you are most financially exposed. Most people are not one emergency away from being fine. They are one emergency away from 3 emergencies arriving at once. So what is the real number? How much should your emergency fund actually contain? The honest answer is that it depends on your specific life. And I know that sounds frustrating. Everyone wants a clean, simple number. But the reason the 3-month rule has failed so many people is precisely because it gave everyone the same answer regardless of their completely different circumstances. So let me walk you through how to calculate your actual number. There are 3 factors that should determine the size of your emergency fund. The first factor is your income stability. Ask yourself honestly how replaceable your income is and how quickly. If you are in a stable, salaried role in a large organization in a growing industry, your risk profile is lower, and 4 to 5 months may be genuinely sufficient. But if you are a freelancer, a contractor, a commission-based earner, a small business owner, or someone working in a volatile industry like media, tech startups, or hospitality, your income can disappear faster and take significantly longer to replace. For high volatility income situations, the target should be 9 to 12 months minimum. But here is where it gets interesting. The second factor is what I call your real monthly burn rate during a crisis. Most people calculate their emergency fund using their average monthly expenses. But average months do not happen during emergencies. Emergency periods come with above-average costs, unexpected repairs, medical expenses, travel for family crises, insurance gaps when employer coverage lapses. The number you actually spend during a disrupted month is consistently higher than your normal monthly spend. A simple rule: take your average monthly expenses and multiply by 1.3. That gives you your crisis month estimate. Use that number as your base for the emergency fund calculation, not your comfortable normal month number. This one adjustment alone will meaningfully change your target and bring it much closer to reality. The third factor is your dependency profile. A single person with no children flexible rental arrangements, and no financial obligations to others carries a fundamentally different risk profile than. So why do people stop at 3 months even when somewhere they know they probably need more? Two psychological forces are working against you here, and understanding them changes everything. The first is called goal completion bias. Our brains are genuinely wired to feel profound satisfaction when we finish something. When we hit a defined target, we get a real neurological reward. The brain releases dopamine. We feel accomplished. We feel safe. We feel ready to move on. And that feeling of completion is so powerful that it actively discourages us from continuing beyond the goal we set. The 3-month rule creates a finish line, and crossing a finish line feels extraordinary. The problem is that financial safety does not have a finish line. It has a spectrum. And our brains are deeply uncomfortable with spectrums. They want a number, a target, a specific moment of completion that they can reward and file away. So people hit 3 months, feel that powerful reward signal, and redirect their attention and their money toward things that feel more immediately exciting. Investments with visible returns, lifestyle upgrades, travel, things that are more emotionally stimulating than a savings account that just sits there. The second force is optimism bias. This is our universal human tendency to believe that bad things are statistically less likely to happen to us than to the average person. We acknowledge intellectually that job losses happen, that medical emergencies happen, that unexpected financial crises happen, but we carry a quiet, deep belief that those things happen to other people, not to us, not now, not when things are going reasonably okay. This is not ignorance. It is a fundamental feature of human psychology that evolved to keep us functional and forward-moving. If we genuinely confronted the realistic probability of financial catastrophe every single day, we would be paralyzed. Optimism bias keeps us moving, but it also keeps us dangerously underprepared. Together, these two forces create the perfect conditions for vulnerability. We stop building protection the moment it feels like enough. And we quietly convince ourselves that enough will actually be enough when the real moment of crisis arrives. For most people, in most situations, it is not. Here is the reframe that changes everything. The shift in thinking that I want you to carry with you long after this video ends. Stop calling it an emergency fund. That single word, emergency, is doing more psychological damage to your financial life than you probably realize. It frames the money as reactive, as something you only think about when disaster has already arrived, as something passive and static sitting in the background, waiting for the worst. Start calling it your options fund. Here is why that word matters so much. An emergency fund is built on fear. It is the minimum you save to quiet the anxiety of potential disaster. And fear is a weak and exhausted motivator. You do the minimum to satisfy it, and then you stop. An options fund is built on power. It is the money that means you never have to stay in a job that is slowly destroying you because you cannot afford to quit. It is the money that means a surprise expense does not send you into a spiral of debt and shame. It is the money that means when life delivers one of its inevitable brutal moments, you are standing on solid concrete instead of wet sand. Think about what David's story really cost him, not just the money. Think about the job he eventually took. He accepted a role he was overqualified for at a salary below his previous position because by month 4, he had no negotiating power left. Desperation does not negotiate. Fear does not negotiate. People without options do not negotiate. They take what is offered and they feel grateful for it. People with a fully funded options fund can wait. They can decline the wrong opportunity without panic. They can hold out for the right role, the right salary, the right situation. And that patience compounds. The better job leads to better experience, leads to better future opportunities, leads to a fundamentally different financial trajectory over the next decade. The size of your options fund is not just about surviving a crisis. It is about what kind of life you get to build on the other side of one. A small fund means you recover slowly, in debt, from a place of weakness. A real fund means you recover quickly, cleanly, and sometimes even better than before. That difference is worth every single month of disciplined saving. Here is exactly what to do. Simple, clear, and genuinely actionable starting today. First, Recalculate your real monthly number. Take your average monthly expenses and multiply by 1.3. Write that number down somewhere visible. That is your crisis month estimate, and the only number you should be using for this calculation going forward. Second, set your real target. Multiply your crisis month number by 6 if you are in a stable income situation with no major dependents. Multiply by 9 if you are in a moderate risk situation with some dependence or some income variability. Multiply by 12 if you are a freelancer, contractor, small business owner, or have significant financial obligations to others. That is your options fund target. Third, open a dedicated account today, not tomorrow. Today, a high-yield savings account completely separate from your everyday banking. Name it something that motivates you. Freedom account, options fund, safety net. Whatever makes it feel real and purposeful to you rather than just a pile of money waiting for disaster. Fourth, automate the contribution. Set up an automatic transfer the moment your paycheck arrives each month. Even if it is only $50 or $100 right now, the habit and the momentum matter far more than the speed at this stage. As your financial situation improves, increase the transfer. Let the fund grow in the background without requiring willpower or daily decisions from you. Fifth, review it once a year. Your life changes. Your expenses change. Your risk profile changes. A fund that represented 6 months of coverage 2 years ago might only represent 4 months today because your rent increased or your family grew. Keep the number honest. Keep building. And if you already have 3 months saved, do not feel shame about it. Feel genuinely proud. You are ahead of most people. But set a new target right now. Add 1 more month to the goal, then another. Keep building until you reach the number that actually matches the life you are actually living. David rebuilt his options fund after everything settled down. It took him almost 2 years to clear the credit card debt and rebuild his savings from scratch while adjusting to a lower salary. But he got there. He has 9 months saved now. And he told me something recently that I have been thinking about ever since. He said when he had 3 months saved, he felt safe. But when he had 9 months saved, he felt free. And those two feelings, he said, are nothing like each other. Safe means you might survive the storm. Free means the storm does not get to decide what your life looks like on the other side of it. So here is the question I want you to sit with today. If everything went wrong tomorrow, not just one thing, but the chain reaction of things that tends to follow the first thing, how many months of genuine options do you have? Not survival months, not desperate months, not borrow from everyone you love months. Real options, real choices, real power over what happens next. Because the purpose of financial preparation was never just to get through the hard moments. It was always to make sure the hard moments do not get to write the rest of your story. The storm is coming for everyone eventually. The only question is whether you are standing on rock or standing on sand when it arrives. Start building the rock today.